Therapy doesn't exist outside of politics and our daily social reality. Our clients are bringing in what's happening in the world, and so are we. The real question is, how do we hold on to that without hiding behind a blank slate or imposing our own beliefs? Tell us in the comments. Have you found yourself worrying about whether you are being too neutral or not neutral enough? Just type yes if any of that or anywhere in between describes you. And I'm willing to bet it does because we've all had that moment of panic in session. What if I impose my beliefs? What if I don't have enough training to handle this? What if I get it wrong? We've all been taught to stay neutral, to be a blank slate. But in today's world, that can feel confusing and even impossible. Hold up real quick though. If you don't know me yet, I'm Jenny Hughes, a trauma psychologist and the founder of the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective, a community of trauma therapists who are human first together. And a central motivator in my work is to build community for therapists because I know how isolating it is to hold these questions and this work on your own. Being human, let me tell you, it's your greatest tool as a trauma therapist. So that's what we're talking about today and the walk that we walk in Brave. So let's dig in. We're going to look at this in three ways: the therapist blank slate, the neutral approach of Switzerland, and the affirming anchor. So, starting with the blank slate, this is where we completely hide ourselves. No reactions, no disclosures. We've been told that this is professionalism, but to clients, it can feel like distance, silence, and even judgment. And it's such a token representation of us on TV and films, right? I mean, how do you feel whenever you see a therapist portrayed as empty, blank, and hiding behind their notepad? Let me know if that stereotype drives you just as wild as it does me, okay? The next one is neutral Switzerland. This approach is about holding space without inserting our beliefs. And yeah, it totally has a place in our work, but neutrality is not neutral. Just ask Switzerland. It always communicates something, it is still a stance. And that then brings us to the third option here in this framework: the affirming anchor. This is where things get both messier and more powerful. This is where we show up as open, compassionate, and accepting of our clients' identities and lived realities. And the key here is that affirming doesn't mean that we agree with everything our clients say. It also doesn't mean we jump in to challenge everything that feels different or atypical. Affirming is about being really super intentional in how and when we challenge. Always asking ourselves, does this serve the client's healing and their work, or am I reacting to my own discomfort? This is what makes affirmation such a powerful middle path. It's not hiding behind a blank slate. It's not the detached stance of neutrality. It's anchoring ourselves in humanity, holding steady enough for our clients to feel safe while still bringing our professional judgment into the room. And this became so clear in thinking back to the pandemic because during COVID, it was obvious we were all living through the same thing. We couldn't not acknowledge it. We all went online. Our kids were interrupting our sessions. Do you remember that interview with that guy, politician? I don't know who he was, some, businessman looking guy on the news, and his kid like popped right in and said something totally just like inappropriate. Or our dog's barking, right? Right now, my dog's in here. And guess what? He was then too, and even before. And now, because we lived through the pandemic, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me if he barks because it's actually kind of normal now, right? Back then, all of our backgrounds were changing, sometimes on a weekly, daily basis, because we had to find a new place to work depending on where our kids were for school or where our partners, roommates, friends were in the house. And during that time, clients could see that we were human right alongside them. And we were forced into it. The Band-Aid was ripped off. And it was kind of scary at first, but for me anyway, it was also really freeing. I didn't have to pretend that I was this perfect statue of a human therapist, that nothing ever happened in my life because it was just all out on the table. And now, 5 years later, we're back in offices or our Zoom backgrounds haven't changed in years, case in point. And clients don't know the headlines that we read just before session, even though we're all living through the same events right now, the same chaos of our current landscape. We're not necessarily allowed to talk about all that the way that we could during the pandemic, nor is it always appropriate or ethical. That is part of the messy middle ground that we're in right now. And, while we're reminiscing about the pandemic, I do want to hear from you. What do you remember about those early pandemic sessions? Did you feel more human with your clients then? Less human? Were you scared shitless? I know I did, for all of the above, for better or for worse. So tell me and all of us in the comments. And, this being human thing, it's why neutrality feels so complicated and often conflicting. Pretending therapy is separate from politics and social realities, that's not neutral. That's a stance. And this is where we start to get into the edges of affirmation. Because affirming doesn't mean we co sign everything a client brings into the room. Affirming means standing with clients in their humanity, in their truth. It means offering positive regard for who they are without agreeing with every belief or behavior. For me, the edges are really clear. For example, faith affirming doesn't mean affirming hate. Politically affirming doesn't mean affirming harmful policies or violence. Orientation affirming doesn't mean affirming abuse. And the list can go on and on. That's only to name a few. Affirming is about anchoring ourselves in humanity, not co signing harm. And this came home to me in such a powerful way during a recent termination session. You know, as happens in our work, we have to say goodbye to our dear clients. And in one such session not long ago, as we processed a goodbye, a typical goodbye, there was, nothing out of the ordinary here. The client told me that what had meant the most to her was how open and accepting I had been. She shared things that she described as atypical, things she had worried other people would judge or try to fix. And she told me that what made the difference wasn't me being neutral, and it definitely wasn't me challenging her. It was the stance of affirmation, of holding her with positive regard and curiosity that allowed her to feel seen. And that's what she carried with her from our work. I had no idea she even picked up on this, even as I know very well that this is an intentional approach in my work with all clients. And to have her share this with me unprompted, it's actually why I'm making this video for you today, because our clients know what we're doing, consciously or subconsciously. And we need to take our work, our role, and our stance in these relationships seriously, maybe even more seriously than you ever have before. Because people are desperate to be seen right now. Shit, you are desperate to be seen, right? To stop hiding behind your blank slates and your phone and your keyboard, and to know that there are humans and relationships where you can land because of their affirming anchor. So here's what I want you to think about as you head back into your sessions and into your life. Where do you notice yourself leaning? Blank slate, Switzerland, or the affirming anchor? And what would it look like to bring even more of that affirming presence into the room, into the work, especially because of the messy middle ground we're all living in right now? Tell us in the comments, go back in there. Share one way that you've tried to be affirming in a tough conversation. I promise your story is going to resonate with another therapist who's reading and wondering if they're the only one. And listen, if you're nodding along right now, if you're tired of holding all of this alone, then Brave is the place for you. It's where trauma therapists come together to be human first, to stop hiding behind blank slates, and to get the support we all need to keep doing this work. So click the link in the description, go over to our website, and join us in Brave for just $12 a month. Don't wait until you're burned out or isolated to find us, to find community. Come into a space that'll actually hold you so you can keep holding your clients.